We're going to get started, so if everyone would mind quieting down.
Let us pray.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have your attention, please.
Thank you. It'll listen to
Okay.
women.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Lord, we come before you this morning and thank you for yet another session with two of our special church members as they share about their lives and share their stories with us. May you bless them and speak through them as they become vulnerable before us. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. Okay. Again, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have Miss Vera Jennings and Ambassador. I'm going to ask you to pronounce your name one more. Oa with us today as they're going to share their stories with us. So we're going to start with Miss Vera. Okay, so Ms. Vera, please share with us where you and your family are from.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Vera Hunt Jennings, and I am a retired DC public school teacher. My father was Irvin Garland Penn Hunt from Lauderdale County, Mississippi, near Meridian, Mississippi. He taught industrial arts at Jackson State College, now University in Jackson, Mississippi. He came from a large family of 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls, and he was the third in birth order. My mother was Betty Williams Hunt from Forest, Mississippi, and she became assistant manager at the college bookstore at Jackson State. She also taught elementary school for a few years and later worked at the General Motors plant in Clinton, Mississippi. My mother also came from a large family of 10 children with 5 boys and 5 girls, and she was the 7th child in birth order. While she was not the youngest child, she loved to tell people that she was the youngest girl in the family. She was very proud of that. I have 3 brothers and had a sister who passed away at age 4. So I never got to know her. Vernon, my twin brother, and I were born at home in Forest, Mississippi, in a house that my father built. A few months after we were born, my father accepted a teaching position at Jackson State College, a teacher's college, and moved the family to Jackson. The family lived on campus in faculty housing for a few years. My brothers and I always like to say that we grew up on that campus. We later moved to a home that my father built near the college campus. We all attended the college laboratory school until the 8th grade. School actually ended at 8th grade. They went no higher. And then went to Jim Hill Junior Senior High School. My older brothers went to universities out of state, in California and in Massachusetts. Sadly, my father died just 1 month after my brother and I graduated from high school. We were only 17 years old. It was devastating to lose my father when we were so young. My brother and Vernon and I stayed in state and attended Jackson State to be near our mother. I had an active college life at Jackson State. I majored in speech and theater, was a majorette in the marching band, the Marching 100, was a member of the Dunbar Dramatic Guild, a member of the modern dance troupe called the Saratoga Dancers, and a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I was very eager to finish school and begin my career, so I went to school year-round and completed my degree in just 3 years. At that time, the university was on a quarter system, so we had 3 quarters in the year and 2 summer sessions. I was the first Black person to do my practice teaching at Callaway Senior High School in Jackson, which was a predominantly white high school. There were only 20 Black students at the school. However, none of them were in my classes. This was not my choice, but I was asked to do this by my senior advisors. Remember, this was in the 60s, during the Civil Rights Movement. Nevertheless, it turned out to be a very good experience for me, and I was treated well with respect and kindness. Jesse and I met during freshman orientation week prior to the beginning of college classes. We also took a class together that first quarter, but we did not start dating until our senior year. I always thought Jesse was the nicest young man. And once we started dating, I knew he was the right one, a real keeper. We became engaged and got married on July 20th, 1968. We have 3 children and 2 grandsons. We have lived in Maryland since Jesse was drafted into the Army during the Vietnam War in 1969, when we lived briefly in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then moved to Prince George's County, Maryland. We moved to Montgomery County in 1986. Oh, let me go back to this part. Though it took 4 years, I did go back to school in the evenings and earned my graduate degree from University of Maryland University College as a Master of General Administration in 1996.
Thank you, Ms. Vera. It's always special to hear how people have met. So that's nice to hear how you and Mr. Jesse met. And thank you for sharing about your father as well as your family. Would you please tell us about your faith journey?
While my father was a lifelong Methodist, my mother grew up Baptist and converted when she married my father. Our home church was Central United Methodist Church in Jackson, Mississippi. I was confirmed along with a large group of kids at the age of 12. And I remember that it was a special and beautiful ceremony with all the girls in white dresses and the boys in dark suits and ties. And our parents were very proud of us. I felt as though this was a special day and that this decision made me feel very adult, much closer to God. My church meant a lot to me and provided a strong foundation for my spiritual life and growth. I participated in many church programs and activities. I sang in the youth choir and was a member of the Methodist Youth Fellowship, the MYF. I have great memories of summer retreats and conferences at the Methodist facility called Gulfside Assembly in Waveland, Mississippi, which was built in 1923. It was destroyed during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Today, there's only an open-air prayer chapel, but there are plans to rebuild. In May of 2016, Gulfside received New Heritage Landmark status in the United Methodist Church because of its distinguished mission history of African Americans in the 1920s. While in the MYF, a small group of us traveled to Pfeiffer College in Meisenheimer, North Carolina. to attend a youth conference. We shared dormitory rooms, enjoyed meals together, and attended Bible classes. This opportunity was a first for all of us because we each were paired with a white participant, and it was great. We sang and danced together, learned our different school cheers, exchanged school photos, and just a few weeks later, my roommate sent all of our little dorm group silver charms engraved with the conference date and the name of the college to commemorate this exciting and memorable experience. This was a beautiful thing to see. It was so unexpected. Central United Methodist Church was very active in the civil rights movement and hosted freedom riders, provided meals and housing for demonstrators, and many meetings to support the movement. Because my father was an employee of the state, and we certainly didn't want him to lose his job because that threat was always there. My mother asked us not to march in demonstrations, but I did manage to help serve meals in church members' private homes when marchers came to town when we were asked. We all lived through the senseless death of Medgar Evers, President John F. Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and so many others, and we all knew that the hard work and long struggle would lead to a better life for oppressed people. With prayer and the strength of courageous people, we would overcome. The Civil Rights Act and all good legislation must be protected for everyone. Jesse and I moved to Prince George's County in Montgomery, moved from Prince George's County, Montgomery County in 1986. At that time, we were members of Asbury United Methodist Church in D.C. and continued to go there until it became too much of a drive. We decided to visit a few Methodist churches in the area to find a new church home. When we visited North Bethesda, we were greeted warmly by Hal and Barbara St. Auburn. And after service, we saw Jesse's IBM colleague, Leon Scheidt. And he and everyone made us feel very welcome. And it just felt right. I have always said North Bethesda is a special place with very loving and caring people. Members always seem to show support and love, and I believe that this is a real church family. We transferred our membership and joined North Bethesda in June of 1990. I am happy to work in the church and have served as co-chairperson of the church's 50th anniversary committee, as a lay leader, member of the choir, member of the membership and evangelism committee, and on the lay leadership committee.
Thank you for sharing that rich history, and just also mentioning some names that people who we've loved from this church. It's wonderful to hear them. Can you share any interests or hobbies or special skills or talents? We know that you sing. Anything else?
Oh, well, I think I'm a pretty good cook. I love to bake. I enjoy gardening, but my knees don't agree with that much anymore. I like fashion, love fine jewelry, enjoy theater and musical theater, public speaking and music, a lot of different types of music. I really enjoy participating in coffee hour and the fellowship it provides members and guests. I used to sew and knit a little, but not so much. Remember, you use it or you lose it. Yeah.
Thank you. So you've definitely already touched on your experience growing up in terms of issues around race and equity. What other experiences have you had, or how do you view these issues now?
Of course, I grew up during a time when I saw those office signs like white wide waiting room, whites only, colored entrance, etc. And those water fountains and facilities were often filthy and not fit for anyone to use. Those signs were hurtful and demeaning, but I always knew that I was not a second-class citizen. You can never let anyone tell you who you are. And if they do, never, ever believe it. We always avoided businesses that had those signs displayed and shopped elsewhere. The Mississippi State Fair was always separate, but very unequal. They only wanted black customers during the second week of the fair, after all the best attractions and rides had left town. When we moved here many years ago, Jess and I were not welcome when we drove up to an apartment building in Northern Virginia that was on the approved housing list when he was in the Army in '69. The rental office staff just closed the blinds when we parked our car to make it appear that they were closed. And I never forgot that experience. Another example was when I went into Garfinkel's department store. Some of you might remember that. In downtown DC, and no one wanted to wait on me. They either didn't walk over to the counter where I was standing, or would simply ignore me and kept on walking. My parents always taught us to respect ourselves and others and treat others the way we wanted to be treated. To stand up straight, to enunciate, speak clearly, and be polite to everyone and respect your family and yourself with dignity.
Very good advice from your parents, Ms. Vera. Thank you. So what have you had to learn or unlearn around issues of social justice?
Well, I did sort of touch on some of that, but I have learned that I will not always be treated fairly, and that my rights will not always be guaranteed or protected. Just because it is the law, some will not respect the law or you. There are some people who have no respect for people or human dignity. The struggle for social justice is long and will continue as long as there are those who are intent on depriving anyone of their basic rights, needs, or decent living and their God-given rights. We must all work to do our part to protect our democracy. After all, it is worth fighting for. Oh, good experience. In 1959, my father drove the family to California to visit his brother. And we all packed into that 1958 Ford four-door sedan, and we drove all the way to California. It's about 3,000 miles. We had never been that far away from home, and we could not afford to stay in hotels, so we slept in the car and used rest area parks to clean up. It took 3 days to travel to Pasadena by car. Fast food or drive-in restaurants were a new experience for us, as we could not go to them in Mississippi because they were all segregated. But that long trip taught us the kindness of people and that things could be better when you are treated with respect and not judged by your color. It was a wonderful learning experience, and we even went to Disneyland. Well, that was a real treat. I believe that prayer and real understanding is necessary to a good life. I believe that treating people with respect, kindness, and a caring heart is very important. That if you send out these attributes, you will be treated well in return. people who take time to show you these simple things are people worth getting to know.
Thank you. That's powerful, Ms. Vera. And I'm sure you're. I was going to say that your former students, when you were a teacher, were blessed to have you. And I'm just reminded, listening to your words, just how blessed the children in this church are to just have such role models and people who can teach them such lessons. So thank you for that.